أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge with Allah from the shaitan, the stone. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. With the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace and blessings of Allah to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today the topic is what Al-Quran says about Nikah, translated in English, marriage. Before I discuss the relevant ayat, as mentioned in the Quran about the Nikah or the marriage, I would like to give you a brief introduction to what generally accepted in the whole world. What is marriage? In the dictionaries and generally, it is the social institution under which a man and a woman establish their decision to live as husband and wife by legal commitment, religious ceremonies, which includes accompanying social festivities or festivals. This is a general understanding of the marriage throughout the world. Whether he's a Jew, whether he's a Christian, whether he's a Buddhist, whether he's an atheist, any person in the whole world, this system is accepted by Allah as whatever you are. Once you commit yourself as husband and wife, this is accepted. But to clarify one point here, in our lecture, there is a word fortify, morsen. Morsen means fortify, fort. Fortify, women are morsenat, means fortified woman. And what is that? I add in this discussion. To surround, fortify means to surround and strengthen against any form of attack, physical, sexual, or emotional. This description is, this word is used in the Quran, which generally is not to be found. But what it means, man, when he engages a woman for wife, or the wife engages the man as husband, they should develop the trust, and that is to fortify themselves. Fortify themselves means they have to strengthen against any form of attack from an outsider, man or a woman. If I am married to a woman, she should fortify herself from any kind of physical, sexual, and emotional. And I make sure that she does it. And she should make sure that I does it. That is the trust between the husband and the wife. This word is used in Arabic in the Quran, fortify, mohsen. And mohsenat, women who are fortified themselves, and men who fortify. Otherwise, generally, it is understood in the back of the mind, it is understood that we are living in a husband-wife. Secondly, the word nikah in Arabic also means, it contains the meaning of sexual intercourse, legal, between husband and wife. Nikah, the word itself, because when in the lectures I'll say there are forbidden women whom we cannot marry, like for example, you cannot marry your mother. It means that behind your mind is that I cannot have legal sexual intercourse with my mother. So the nikah, marriage, the word itself in Arabic, nikah, contains the words of sexual intercourse, legal. Now, there are different categories or different classes of women, a believer. Now I'm coming on the Quranic ayahs or the Quranic concept, to whom a believer man, mark my words, a believer man marries a believing woman. when we say Muslim man can marry a Christian, the Muslim, you must understand what the word Muslim means. Muslim means who submitter. To what? To the lecture that I'm going to give. The ayats, the relevant ayats related to marriage. If I submit and believe in those ayats, that means I'm a believer and a practicing submitter on the ayats. In our society, most of the men and women, though they are born in Muslim culture, they are Muslims, but they do not know before getting married what are the conditions that a man, a Muslim or a believer should have in getting married. Generally, we don't know. So now today you are going to hear what the Quran say about the believing man marrying a believing woman. Meaning she understands the ayahs or he understands the ayahs and believe in them and then they practice. So you must be very careful what I'm saying, because this whole is based on the believing man and believing woman. Believing in the ayahs and practicing the ayahs. So what are the classes or the categories of women are mentioned in the Quran? Believing is that they are believers to whom the believing man can marry. The classes, first the woman is mentioned in the Quran as an-nisa. Nisa, the word, which simply means woman. The first category is mentioned as yatam an-nisa in Quran, which means the word comes from yatim, mean orphan woman. Who is an orphan woman? If I say orphan woman, everybody in the hall will understand that the parent and the parent of the child died when she was young. Parents, the father or either the mother or both. She's an orphan woman, generally understanding. But the Quran goes beyond that understanding. Why? Because if you will note in the whole world, there are number of women, according to the statistics of the world, are greater in the whole world. By birth, they are produced more, number one. Number two, the men have wars, they kill each other, and women are left behind. The number increases. Then there are men who have troubles in the world and they are in jails. So the number is increased. Then there are men who are gays, homosexuals. They are not interested in women. The number increases. So the amount of the number that increases of those women, they become yatama, orphans, in a broader sense of the Quran. So even a woman living with the parents, and if she can't get a husband, she is orphan woman. So the woman in general in the whole Quran, one is described as an orphan woman who, simple description, is based on parent death. But in a broader sense, all women are orphan women due to the production and the reasons I gave. So one is the class is a yatama orphan class. The second is amatun or ima. That is referred in the Quran as slave woman. And slave is a person I purchased, a woman. Slave, but the words that I did, remember, they all have to be believers. Slave woman is, she's like, I'm the owner of that woman. Slave. Though there are situations, circumstances in the world that women are, you can purchase. A believing man can purchase a woman, she can live, and then you can marry if she's a believer, she'll be a slave woman. That is one class. Second class. The The third is ayama, which means widower. Widow woman. Widow who the husband dies, she becomes a widow. So that category is also mentioned in the Quran, that you can marry them. The fourth is mutallaqa, divorced woman. The women who are divorced, you can marry them. But they are all believers categories. And the fifth is the muhsanat. Muhsanat is a word in the Quran used for married woman. Meaning, I just now explained to you that they have to fortify themselves after they get married. Fortify, muhsanat, woman. How can you marry a married woman? You cannot marry a married woman, right? If she's married to somebody, how you cannot marry. But there is a condition mentioned in the Quran that how she can. When she becomes ma malakat aymanukum, which is mostly famous in the world, means possession. Ayman means right. That is ma malakat aymanukum. So there are conditions where a married woman, if she migrates in belief, that means she leaves the rejected husband, and if she migrates in belief, and if a man, believing man, can buy her out, she can become ma malakat aymanukum. First of all, ayman is right, means the right. In the Quran there are ayman, there are right people and there are the wrong people. Left is generally used as wrong. So those right possessors are those women who can be purchased and they can be your ayman. What I will discuss, what is the age of a woman to get married or a man to get married. Surah Nisa 4 and Ayah 6. وَابْتَلُوا الْيَتَامَى حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحَ فَإِنْ آنَسْتُم مِّنْهُمْ رُشْدًا فَادْفَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُمْ وَلَا تَأْكُلُوهَا إِسْرَافًا وَبِدَارًا أَن يَكْبَرُوا وَمَنْ كَانَ غَنِيًّا فَلْيَسْتَعْفِفْ وَمَنْ كَانَ فَقِيرًا فَلْيَأْكُلْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ فَإِذَا دَفَعْتُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فَأَشْهِدُوا عَلَيْهِمْ وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ حَسِيبًا. And test the orphans until when they reach marriage. Then if you are familiar, the sobriety from them, so disperse, that is to pay out their wealth to them, and you do not eat excessively with hurriedness, quickly, that they are older or grown up. And whosoever is rich, then he should refrain, and whosoever is poor, then he should eat with acknowledgement, recognition. So when you disperse or pay out their wealth to them, then take a witness over them, and Allah is sufficient in taking account. Now in this ayah, what is the age of Balagul Nikah? The age. So I've put in the braille. After the age, the children or the girls or the boys, in this context is the orphans. The context in the ayat is the orphans. So it says the age of, after the age of puberty, maturity, fully grown up, developed in body and mind. Like for example, the child is growing, a girl is growing, she has attained, or she or he has attained the puberty. That is not the marriageable age. She has to grow further, that she or he is fully grown up, physically. Like for example, a child is 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, and then finally 6 feet or 5 feet, or whatever is full height is fully grown up physically, the girl is fully grown up physically. That is the fully grown up. And now body and mind. And Allah says in the ayat, that is very important, until when they reach the marriageable age, it's clarified. Then if you are familiar, the sobriety from them. And I will explain what is sobriety. Sobriety meaning is sober, showing self-control. The woman has the self-control, rational, she's got rational thinking, agreeable to reason and logic. These are the qualities of a sober boy, sober man and woman. Sensible, sound judgment, good sense, marked by seriousness, free from lavishness and exaggeration. This condition, the person who is taking care of the child, when she comes to an age, the elderly people should note that the girl is serious, she's have got self-control. Now, suppose she gets mature at the age of 16, suppose. And if she's not sober, she's not eligible for marriage. 20 years of age may not be sober, she's not eligible to get married. So the age is described according to the situation of that particular girl or man. And that is showing self-control, rational, agreeable to reason and logic, morally conscious, sensible, sound judgment, good sense, marked by seriousness, free from lavish. I'm just giving the meanings of these words of soberness. So if you find this in your daughter or in a girl, that means you have to judge the parents or the guardian. And in this ayat is referring to a orphan girl who's been taken care of by a guardian. When he finds this personality in a girl or in a boy, then he or she can get married. So from this ayat we have come to know that it is not necessary that the moment she comes to a puberty, you just make sure that she gets married. She must have these qualities, or the man must have these qualities for you to take a decision for them to get married. It is not education, it is not her age, the age is not defined. After the puberty, definitely the other things are more important. Psychologically and physically they are grown up full. Physically they are grown up, you must have their mind, sound judgment. They have got this sound judgment, and that is sobriety. The word is one word Allah gave, and you understand what kind of age she can be. Whatever the age, but she must have these qualities. So girls should understand that they must develop this kind of personality in them to be sober. And if the girl is not sober, then you must not put her into a marriage contract. Or if a man is believer, man is not sober, then he must not go into a marriage contract. This is must. So if in this condition, I just want to make the point here is the sobriety for a girl or a man to get married. He must be sober, he must be responsible. Here we get this. And in the ayat further it says, and the guardian should not eat except sensitively with the hardness and quickly that they become older or grown up. So the other ayat refers to the person who is the guardian, who's taking care. He should not spend the money of that girl because she's a orphan. Said he should eat it. So whoso is rich should refrain, and whoso is poor, then he should eat with acknowledgement, recognition. He may take some money from that girl's money. When you disperse, pay out their wealth to them, then take a witness over them, and Allah is sufficient in taking account. This ayat is referring to a guardian who's taking care of a girl. What about the parent? So if we can deduce from this ayat, because I explained to you in a broader sense, every woman is orphan. So now when a parent is making her daughter to get married, he has to look into this account. And what wealth you will disperse. Can anybody from the hall can say? A parent, what money he will give to a daughter at the time of marriage? Hello? Sorry? Yes. You can say that. What is it, dowry? Yeah, dowry. Now the question is, you must understand this is very important. The parent that spends money on the, because if he got the amount that is with him, extra amount. So this Jahez concept is not only a Hindu culture, it is the husband, like for example, I am getting my daughter to get married, I can give, because ultimately she has got a share in my wealth, right? So I can give some amount according to my status that I am living to my daughter, because it belongs to her if I die. But that amount should be cut off when I die, because I spent some amount on my daughter of the marriage. So this money belongs to her if I die. So when I die, so that amount should be deducted in her share. Inheritance, from the inheritance. When I die, there is inheritance, there is an amount that has been given to the daughter. But because she's an orphan woman, so we can deduce for parent to do what? At the time of marriage, what his status is, he can give some amount to a daughter according to her status, his status, keeping in view at when I die, this is her share and that should be deducted. That's her share already. So you're not doing this dowry you're giving is something Hindu culture that you have to give. If you have got the state, if you don't have anything, you don't have to give. If a man does not have anything, who is not able to give sadaqah, charity to mankind, he is not supposed to give. The man who can leave behind something, for it is him to give. If he cannot leave anything, if I die, suppose I don't have anything to give my parent, if I die and I have nothing to give, so I will not give anything. You understand this? If I've got some money and I've got the inheritance from my wealth that has, extra wealth that I have, I can share that, some from her share. So this is 2 points we have gathered from this ayat. One is the age, not only the age, the sound mind and the marriageable age. And the second is the amount of dowry that you can give. Now, further I'm going to read those ayats. First I'm going to read those ayats which Allah forbids a believing man to marry. What are the classes that the believing man should not marry? First these ayats. Then the other ones will come with women who are lawful. So Al-Baqarah 2, ayah 221. وَلَا تَنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنَّ وَلَمَةٌ مُؤْمِنَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكَةٍ وَلَوْ عَجَبَتْكُمْ وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا وَلَا عَبْدٌ مُؤْمِنٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن مُشْرِكٍ وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَالْمَغْفِرَةِ بِإِذْنِهِ وَيُبَيِّنُ آيَاتِهِ لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَذَكَّرُونَ. And you do not marry women who associates, I've written down in bracket, who are mushrik with Allah, until they believe. Until they believe. A believing slave woman is better than a woman who associates with Allah. And even if she amazes you, and you do not let your women marry who associates with Allah until they believe, and a believing servant is better than one who associates with Allah, even he amazes you. They invite you towards the fire, and Allah invites you towards the garden and forgiveness with His permission. And He clarifies His ayahs, signs for the people so that they remember. Now, Allah is asking or educating us to the believing man that he should not marry the mushrik woman who associate. until they believe. And a believing slave woman is better than a woman who associates, even if she amazes you. Now the marriage criteria for a believing man is to marry a believing woman, even if she's a slave. I told you in the beginning, who's a slave woman? Meaning I have purchased that woman and she is my slave. And if she's a believing woman, I can marry her. And a woman who is a mushrik or who associates, whether she amazes me, I cannot marry. No love affairs. You cannot marry. You say you have to know each other, you know, talking and everything. She amazes you, you cannot marry. She's not a believer. You're amazed. But you are not allowed to marry. I told you every ayat that I'm going to read is related to believing man and believing woman. Not by label Muslims. I'm a Muslim submitter, I'm a Muslim submitter. So you know what? They go to different schools of thoughts. And then the Sunni girl get married to Sunni girl, a boy, and the Shia girl gets married to Shia boy. And this Qadiani girl gets a Qadiani boy. You know, they are getting married in their own systems. Similarly, Allah has made the system is belief. Belief in the ayats, in the essence of the ayats. In that context we are talking about. And the most important, another point is, the word used for women here in the ayat is ayyim, I told you, amatun, meaning slave woman. Look in the Arabic, wala amatun mu'mina, a slave woman. But further when we read for the men, wala tunkihul mushrikina hatta yu'minu, wala abdum mu'minun khayrun min mushrik. Thus, a woman, believing woman cannot marry a slave man. The word changes, becomes abd. Abd means servant. You see the difference? You do not let your women marry who associates with Allah until they believe, a believing servant, not a believing slave. The Arabic for women is ama, ayyam, amatun, means a slave woman. But for a man, it is abd, meaning servant. And I will read the meaning. The slave is the person, one who is the property of one and wholly subject to another, one entirely under the domination of person. If a man, believing man, can marry a slave believing woman, I can subjugate, she's my property, wholly subject to me as a believing man. She is my slave, I have purchased her, entirely under my domination. I can do that. But for the believing woman, she cannot, Allah's word, the word abd means servants, a person who is employed on wages by another to perform domestic duties, a person in service of another. Slave and servant are two different words. So a woman cannot marry a slave man, but she can marry a servant who is performing certain duties. She's like a boss of some factory or whatever. She's manager or what. She can marry a person who will assist her job. She can hire that man, not a slave, because she comes under the husband because one darja is given by all, one degree is given to Allah to men. So that is Allah used the word abd, means servant. He can perform duties for you. He can be employed, but she cannot marry a believing slave. She can marry a believing servant. You see the difference, how Allah choice the words? Because Allah knows the psyche of man and the psyche of woman. The psyche of woman is to live under the protection of man. So this servant can protect her. But a slave man will be totally dominated. So Allah says, no, he must be a servant, believing slave. Another point here is, and Allah says, and وَلَا تُنْكِحُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا, and you do not let your women marry who associates. Normally when people read this, it appears to them that the woman can marry, a woman should not marry a man who is associate. No. It is the believer men people, believing men, whether they are the fathers or the brothers or anybody, the believing man has to look for a boy, for the believing woman. Look, and you do not let your woman marry. So the power comes to men, believing men, who marry, who associate with Allah until they believe. And a believing servant is better than than one who associates, even he amazes you, not the woman. You must understand what I'm reading. If I select a boy, not my daughter, men, believing men, and I have to judge, if he is not a believer, and even that man amazes me, not my daughter. In Arabic is walau ajabakum, not kunna, not used for females. You know, people read it vice versa. It's not vice versa. It is for the believing man to look up a man, and this is what happened in the world. Whenever I or everybody, a man comes for my daughter, if he says that I like her, I want to marry her, it is for me to judge the man, the believing man, not my daughter. And after the analysis, after my judgment, believing man judgment, that he should be a believer, and if he's not a believer, I'm being amazed by his personality. Not my daughter, men. It is the man's decision, not the woman's. And after the judgment I have come across, and then I can ask my daughter. And then further, if there are 4 or 3 or 2, I have to select among the 4 or 3, then I can share with my daughter. It is never the other way around. The woman cannot marry a believing man. No, it says you do not let your woman, believing woman, marry who associates with Allah until they believe. And the believing servant is better than who associates with Allah. Even he amazes you, meaning men in Arabic. This is very important. Amazing situation. Normally women think we can, take up a right for a man. No. It is the man who has to judge the man's character, the personality, the sound judgment. The man has to judge. Because they invite you to the fire and Allah invites you to the garden, and the forgiveness is with His permission. And He clarifies His ayat signs for the people so that they will remember. So the clarification of the ayat is a servant, believing man is all right with the believing woman. But a slave woman is better for a believing man. And now further, you see the contract. Normally in marriage ceremonies, there is a contract. And the contract in the Quran is written in Surah Al-Baqarah 2 and Ayah 282. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu idha tadayantum bidainin ila ajalin musamma faktubuh. Wastashhidu shahidaini min rijalikum fa in lam yakuna rajulaini farajulun wa imratan mimman tardawna min ash-shuhada an tadilla ihdahuma fatudhakkir ihdahuma al-ukhra. O you believe, when you attain or reach a judgment among each other with a judgment towards a fixed period of time, then write it down and take 2 witnesses from your men. Then if there are no 2 men, then take 1 man and 2 women from the witnesses whom you are pleased. And if one of the 2 women stays, then other reminds her. Now this is a very big ayat in the Quran. Surah Baqarah 282 is the largest verse in the Quran. I have taken 2 small portions to establish one point. Before I read, it says that that it can who seeks the book, so write the marriage contract to them. You see, in the world, whenever we're getting married, there is a contract. Marriage ceremony takes place, we take witnesses. Don't we? A lawyer comes and a witnesses. So in the Quran, it is not defining especially a marriage contract, it is defining any contract for a period of time. You come to a judgment, you write it down, which for a period of time. So you believe when you attain and reach a judgment among each other, with the judgment towards a fixed period of time, then write it down. Any time, any written document should be, anything should be written down if it's taking a period of time. It's a house rent or a owner and a ownership transfer. So you see the world that there's a document involved. Similarly, when we get married or we are living in any country, so you see, you must understand that legally, I can get married to any woman with bringing 4 or 5 people here or 10 people or whatever the amount of people and get married to a woman. But would I be legal in Pakistan? So I have to have a written document. And that written document has to be registered in Pakistan. So we are living in a country, so you have to abide the laws of the country as well. If there is a law that comes in between the law of a country, then you follow the ayahs in a manner that you can fulfill the Allah's law. So written documents registered in a particular country, whether it's registered in Pakistan or registered in America or registered in Canada or Europe or Australia, anywhere you must have fulfilled the condition of the country to establish that you are legally married. So that is a written contract.